But countrywide celebrations were short-lived. The Arab countries decided to attack. Within hours, Egyptian warplanes hovered over the skies of Tel Aviv, releasing their destructive cargo. The Lebanese set their sights on Haifa and Nazareth. Syrian tanks advance on the fertile farmlands around the Sea of Galilee. The Iraqis take up positions in Samaria, hoping to cut Israel in two. Jordan's Arab Legion surrounds Jerusalem. And 10,000 Egyptians cross out of the Sinai Desert to threaten Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. With the whole country a potential battleground, the citizens of Israel soberly joined up. The realities of giving birth to a new country in this volatile region will have dramatic impact on their way of life. Historic consequences which no one could foresee. A small arms industry is started, turning irrigation pipes into primitive mortars and homemade grenades, as the Jews impatiently await the arrival of weapons purchased abroad. Impatient, too, are conscripts swelling the ranks of the Arab Liberation Army. They come to join Iraqi General Fauzi al-Qaukji, who set up positions overlooking the Jezreel Valley, the legendary battlefield of Armageddon. The kibbutz settlements await imminent attack. In northern Israel, each settlement battles for its very existence. They have no choice but to repel the invading armies of Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. In the south of Israel, the Egyptian threat is even more ominous. Here, handfuls of barely armed defenders drive back wave after wave of attacks. Standing up to 5 days of Egyptian tank, artillery and air bombardment, the defenders of kibbutz Yad Mordechai are finally forced to evacuate under cover of darkness. The Egyptians advance within 17 miles of Tel Aviv. After 2 weeks of bitter fighting, the turning point of the war comes when the first 4 aircraft arrive in Israel from Czechoslovakia. With no time for test flights, the first Israeli airmen take off to attack the Egyptian column. Although militarily ineffective, the surprise appearance of the planes sends fear into the Egyptian ranks. Israel then circles the Egyptian flank and mounts the first night counterattack offensive. This throws the Egyptians into total disarray, and all plans for further advance are dropped. Despite this major victory, Israel's situation remained critical.
And some very tough decisions were taken, for example, like sending newcomers who didn't have any military training, who didn't have even a suntan on their face, and sending them to fight at the entrance of Jerusalem.
Focus of the battle for Jerusalem was the police station of Latrun, a strategic stronghold overlooking the biblical battlefield of the Ayalon Valley. This fortress-like building, dominating the western entrance to Jerusalem, was securely in the hands of the Arab Legion. The Legion had orders from Transjordan's King Abdullah to occupy every inch of Arab Palestine, but his main ambition lay with the holy city of Jerusalem. Waves of badly planned and executed operations saw casualties mount daily for the Israelis. Their failure to dislodge the Legion from Latrun led to the ever-tightening stranglehold the Arabs held on Jerusalem. When word came of the fall of the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem's old city, morale hit rock bottom. After 2 weeks of the war's most savage fighting, the Jewish quarter surrendered. Over 1,000 ultra-Orthodox Jewish civilians, plus the few remaining fighters that had defended them, followed their rabbis out of the old city. With the city at the end of its limited supplies, the Israelis at last completed a road across the mountains and brought the first convoy in months to Jerusalem. The siege of the city was finally lifted. Over the months that followed, the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, was forged in fire to emerge as the well-equipped and organized fighting force that stamped its hallmark on Middle East affairs for almost the next half-century. Israel cleared the Galilee and the center of the country. Egyptian forces in the south were routed from the Negev and driven back into the Sinai Peninsula, while King Abdullah annexed the West Bank into his renamed Kingdom of Jordan. But Jerusalem remained a divided city, connected to the rest of Israel only by a slender umbilical cord. The fighting was The mask goes everywhere with people, and it becomes part of the season's fashion scene. And when the scuds fly, everyone puts on their mask and continues life as normal. Almost. The Americans rush batteries of Patriot missiles to Israel. Within a few days, half of Israel's population is arrogantly sitting outside, watching the Patriots explode the scuds high above their heads. This was perhaps the first war that the Israelis could sit back and watch, even if they could not really enjoy it. But the world is not the same after the Gulf War. A new friendship, forged in the fire of a war against a common enemy, has brought Arabs and the West closer than ever before.
After the Gulf War, we agreed upon for President Bush initiative to go to Madrid conference and to participate in it. The bilateral talks took place in Washington, but the Israelis were maneuvering till we start this secret negotiation which took place in Oslo.
But as long as the future status of Jerusalem is not yet fully agreed to by all, the city of peace is sitting on a powder keg of sensitivities.
The Palestinian institution, the holy, sacred Christian and Muslim places in the holy city. And Israel hadn't the right to make any demographic change or to discuss with any other body the situation in the holy city, Jerusalem, but only with the Palestinians.
Behind the closed doors of prejudice, where windows of compromise never open, and the banners of extremism wait to be unfurled, where neither Palestinians nor the Israelis, who will never give up their hold on the city, say that Jews and Arabs must be enemies, for they have